Maya, breathe. You're holding your breath, Chloe whispered, her grip just tight enough to pull Maya from her chaotic train of thought. Before her sat a panel of judges with stone-cold faces. Inside her head, 1,000 voices screamed. They won't understand. They only see the numbers, the dilapidated buildings that need to be leveled. They won't see the soul of this place. They won't see it, Chloe. Her voice nearly broke. They won't see the people. Then make them see. Chloe leaned close to her ear, her voice resolute. Did you forget what Professor Evans said? What were his words? Chloe's words were like a key. Instantly, the old professor's warm voice echoed in Maya's mind, as clear as if he were standing right there. Don't just draw the walls, my girl. Tell the story of the people who live behind them. A wave of warmth washed over Maya. She took a deep breath, not of anxiety this time, but of conviction. Her fingers, which had been clenched around her blueprints, deliberately loosened. She was no longer a small, terrified architecture student. She was the storyteller for the Brickline Quarter. She lifted her chin and strode purposefully to the podium. The stage lights didn't blind her. Instead, they felt like a spotlight waiting for her to shine. She looked directly at the panel, her voice ringing out, clear and steady, without a trace of hesitation. When you look at the Brickline Quarter, perhaps you only see urban decay in need of replacement. But where I look, I see a heart that has been beating for generations. And today, I am not here to present a project. I am here to invite you to listen to that heartbeat. Maya took a deep breath and clicked the remote. The screen behind her lit up, showing a detailed schematic of the Brickline Quarter. There were no artistic renderings, only hard data. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice crisp and stable. Most redevelopment proposals for the Brickline Quarter start with one question. What should we tear down first? My project begins with a different question. What should we preserve and build upon? She switched to another slide, displaying the neighborhood's core problems: an overwhelmed drainage system, a patched-together electrical grid, a lack of public space. The problem with the Brickline Quarter isn't its age. The problem is that its infrastructure has failed to keep up with its own vitality. Therefore, our solution is not demolition, but intelligent enhancement. She changed the slide. A striking before and after image appeared on the screen. The problem with the Brickline Quarter isn't the houses themselves, but what lies beneath and between them, Maya explained articulately. We will move the entire electrical and drainage system underground. This will permanently solve the issues of flooding and safety hazards. Instead of an impromptu dump, this space will become a small park, a green lung for the entire neighborhood. The next slide showed a bustling market, but one that was cleanly and efficiently organized. We will also upgrade the existing market, helping local vendors build their own brands. The economy will grow from within, rather than being replaced by outside corporations. We aren't just saving homes, we are saving livelihoods and a community. She paused, looking directly at the panel with a convincing gaze. This is not a costly plan to preserve the past. This is a smart and sustainable investment in the future. She concluded her presentation cleanly and professionally. A few members of the panel nodded in approval, impressed by the project's logic and feasibility. But then, a cold voice cut through the positive atmosphere. Very practical, Miss Reyes. But you've forgotten the most important number: profit. Carter Johnson stood up, leisurely buttoning his suit jacket. Your plan will take years to show results, with a modest return on investment. Meanwhile, a commercial shopping center on this very spot could recoup its costs within 5 years and deliver 10 times the profit. The numbers don't lie. He looked straight at Maya, his eyes as sharp as a stock trader's. Boston is a market, not a museum. And in a market, decisions based on sentiment are always losing decisions. This time, Carter's words didn't just attack Maya's ideals, they struck directly at her professionalism and business acumen. The confrontation had escalated to a new level: idealism versus profit. The showdown with Carter Johnson left Maya feeling unsettled, but also fiercely determined. She and Chloe returned to their small office, really just a rented room above a convenience store, in a state of mixed emotions. "You did it!" Chloe cheered, tossing her bag onto the old sofa. "You made them all listen, even that arrogant Carter Johnson. No matter how he acted, I bet he was impressed." Maya managed a weak smile, slumping into her chair in front of the computer. "I'm not so sure, Chloe." His eyes, they didn't look impressed. They looked like a shark that had just smelled a rival in its territory. "Forget him." Chloe waved a hand dismissively. "The panel saw your passion. We have a chance." Just then, a ping sounded from Maya's computer. A new email from the competition organizers. Her heart skipped a beat. "They've responded," she said softly, her hand trembling slightly as she moved the mouse. The smile vanished from her face as she read the first few lines. Her expression turned pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What is it, Maya?" Chloe asked, stepping closer with concern. "Is it bad news?" Maya didn't answer, just shook her head numbly. She read the email aloud, her voice strained. "Dear Miss Reyes, we were very impressed with your vision. However, concerns have been raised regarding the authenticity of the data you provided. Specifically, your community survey results, which form the basis of your preservation argument. We have received an independent report indicating serious discrepancies." "What?" Chloe yelled. "That's absurd. I helped you enter and double-check every single number myself. Our data is completely clean." Maya scrolled down the email. There was an attached link. She clicked it. It led to an article that had just been published on a reputable Boston business news site. The bold headline hit them like a punch. Sterling Corp releases report. Residents of the Brickline Quarter crave modernization, not a living museum. Below were eye-catching charts, professional-looking statistics, and quotes from a few residents claiming they wanted a shopping mall and jobs more than they wanted to keep their old houses. The article asserted that any project based on the desire for preservation ran contrary to the true wishes of the people. It never mentioned Maya by name, but the target was obvious: Sterling Corp. Maya said through gritted teeth, "They're our biggest competitor in this competition. They submitted a proposal for a modern complex, too." "This is no coincidence," Chloe said, her voice filled with anger. "The timing of this article, right after your presentation. It was prepared. This was a targeted attack." Maya leaned back in her chair, feeling both stunned and furious. They hadn't just attacked her project, they were attacking her integrity. They were painting her as a naive romantic who had fabricated data to serve her own ideals. The competition was no longer about public debate. It had become an underground war where those with power and money were willing to play dirty to eliminate their rivals. She stared at the screen, where Sterling Corp's article remained, defiant. The initial shock faded, replaced by a cold, burning resolve. "They want to play dirty?" she muttered. "Fine. I'll show them the truth." After the initial shock, Maya and Chloe threw themselves into the fight to clear their names. They returned to the Brickline Quarter, knocking on every door, collecting signatures, and filming short video interviews. They had the truth in their hands, sincere affirmations from residents that they supported Maya's project, but the truth got them nowhere. They sent their evidence to the organizers, only to receive a cold email stating the matter was under review. They tried to contact journalists, but no one dared to go up against Sterling Corp., a real estate giant. Every door was slammed in their faces. "It's no use, Maya," Chloe said wearily after a week of running around. "We have the truth, but they have the power and the money. They've created a different story, and the whole city is buying it." Maya sat motionless before her computer, staring at the silent video files. She felt a helplessness she had never known. Her ideals and her persistence seemed small and ridiculous in the face of a ruthless media machine. Just then, a dry ping came from her computer. A new email appeared. The sender was an unknown address. There was no subject line. Maya almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. But something urged her to open it. Inside was a single curt line. "The Reserve Bar. Tonight, 9 p.m. Find Rick Davies. He has a weakness. Horse racing." Maya read the line over and over. Her heart began to pound. "What is that?" Chloe leaned over to look. "A trap? Delete it, Maya. It sounds dangerous." "Maybe," Maya whispered, but her eyes had changed. The fire that had nearly died out was suddenly reignited, but it's also the only thing we have right now. They think they've cornered us, but they don't realize that when a person has nothing left to lose, they'll do anything. She shot to her feet, her previous exhaustion gone, replaced by a cold determination. "You're right, we can't fight Sterling Corp head on," Maya said to Chloe, "so we'll attack their weakest link." That evening, Maya went to the reserve alone. She had no concrete plan, only a name and a weakness. She quickly spotted Rick Davies, a portly, middle-aged man boasting loudly at the bar. Mustering all her courage, she walked over and struck up an innocent conversation about horse racing, then skillfully brought up a past race-fixing scandal. The smug look on Rick's face vanished, replaced by panic. He started to sweat. Maya knew she had hit a nerve. She turned on her phone's voice recorder and continued the conversation. When she left the bar, she held the ultimate weapon, a recording in which Rick, in his panic, had accidentally admitted that Sterling Corp's survey results had been just a little fudged to make the numbers look better. She didn't know who sent the email, but she knew that someone from the shadows had handed her a knife, and she had not hesitated to use it. The recording of Rick Davies created an earthquake. The Boston Tribune ran it as a front-page story, and Sterling Corp could no longer hide. Their project was disqualified from the competition in disgrace, and Maya's Pulse of Boston project was officially named a finalist. The victory was spectacular. Maya became a phenomenon, a David who had slain Goliath. She and Chloe celebrated in their small office, their laughter echoing late into the night. For the first time, they felt their dream was truly within reach. But in the ruthless business world of Boston, no one believed in fairy tales. A young, unknown architect couldn't possibly take down Sterling Corp on her own. There had to be another power at play, and people began to whisper. The rumors started as anonymous comments on news articles, then spread to conversations in upscale bars. Their logic was simple. Who benefited most from Sterling Corp's elimination? Carter Johnson. Who had publicly challenged Maya, creating the perfect drama to conceal a partnership? Carter Johnson. The narrative was woven perfectly. Carter had been secretly backing Maya, feeding her information to eliminate his biggest competitor. Now, in the final round, he could easily acquire her project or defeat an inexperienced rival. Maya wasn't David. She was merely a pawn in a master's game. Maya felt the shift in how people looked at her. At an industry networking event, congratulatory handshakes were now accompanied by knowing winks. Instead of asking about her design, they hinted at her special relationship. Miss Reyes is truly talented, an older investor said to her, though his eyes darted toward Carter, who was standing across the room. With such a powerful mentor, your future is certainly bright. The comment was like a slap in the face. The victory she had fought for with sweat, tears, and incredible risk was now dismissed as a favor. Her hard work was completely negated. She wasn't a talented architect. She was just Carter's girl. The bitterness and pressure made her withdraw. She threw herself into perfecting the project for the finals, often working alone through the night, pushing away any offers of help. And the first person to feel that change was Chloe. "You've been acting strange, Maya," Chloe said one evening, bringing food to the office to find Maya still glued to her screen. "You don't talk to me anymore. I called you all day, and you didn't pick up." "I was busy," Maya replied curtly, without looking up. "I know you're busy. But we've always done everything together." Chloe's voice was tinged with hurt. "You're meeting with suppliers alone. You're attending events alone. You're facing these rumors alone. I feel like an outsider on our own project." Maya sighed, her exhaustion making her impatient. "You don't understand, Chloe. It's not that simple anymore." That remark ignited the resentment Chloe had been suppressing. "I don't understand? I was the one who stayed up all night with you, the one who knocked on every door to clear your name. Or is it that now that you have a powerful connection, you don't need a friend like me anymore?" "What are you talking about?" Maya spun around, her voice rising, stung by the accusation. "Is it nonsense when the entire city is talking about you and Carter Johnson, and your best friend is completely in the dark?" Chloe said, her eyes welling with tears. "I feel abandoned, Maya." A heavy silence filled the room. Maya looked at her best friend, realizing that while she had been busy fighting ghosts on the outside, she had inadvertently pushed away her only ally. The storm over her reputation wasn't just attacking her. It was beginning to destroy their friendship. She had won the battle with Sterling Corp, but now she was in danger of losing everything. Meanwhile, in another Boston skyscraper, Carter entered his father's top-floor office. The air in here always felt suffocating. Mr. Johnson Sr., a man with silvering hair but eyes as sharp as razors, sat behind a massive desk, flipping through a file. "Sit," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. He didn't look up. "I've read the reports. You're letting a small architectural project and a no-name girl influence business decisions." "Father, it's a project with potential," Carter replied, keeping his voice calm. "Potential?" Mr. Johnson finally looked up, and his gaze sent a chill down Carter's spine. "I see the potential for losses, the potential for scandal. The whole city is buzzing with rumors that my son is backing an architect. The Johnson name is being associated with a charity case instead of billion-dollar deals. You are weakening our brand. I'm merely diversifying our portfolio." "Don't use business jargon with me," his father interrupted, his voice sharp. "I know what you're doing. You're intrigued by her. And now what?" Her sponsor, the Horizon Fund, was just exposed for money laundering. "That ship is sinking, and you're planning to go down with it?" He pushed another file across the desk toward Carter. It was a plan to acquire Sterling Corp now that their stock had plummeted, a ruthless and incredibly profitable move. This is pure business, Carter. No sentiment, no attachments. I want you to publicly announce your withdrawal from any association with Miss Reyes' project. Focus on the Sterling Corp acquisition. Show Boston that the Johnsons don't play children's games. Carter looked at the file, then at his father. This was an ultimatum. A choice between the path his father had laid out for him, a path of absolute profit and cold power, and another path he had only just begun to explore, one that included ideals and conviction. Are you asking me to abandon her? Carter asked directly. I am asking you to choose our family and our empire, Mr. Johnson replied, without a hint of compromise. Make your choice, Carter. At the same time, two people in different parts of Boston were pushed to the brink. Maya was losing faith, doubted by her friend, with her passion project threatened. Carter faced a grim choice: follow his family's path or listen to the new voice in his heart. The storm had reached its peak. The press conference room was even more suffocating than the initial presentation. This time, Maya wasn't there to present a dream. She was there to fight for its survival. News that her project had been suspended had spread like wildfire, and the crowd of reporters had gathered like vultures, ready to tear apart what was left of her reputation. She sat alone on the small stage, a blank projection screen behind her. Chloe was there, but she stood silently in a far corner, her face etched with worry and regret. Their argument had created an invisible chasm between them. Miss Reyes, do you have any comment on the connection between your project and the Horizon Fund? A reporter shouted as soon as she sat down. Was your project just a front for money laundering? Another added. Maya took a deep breath, refusing to let the chaos unnerve her. She took the microphone, her voice ringing out clear and strong, cutting through the murmurs. Integrity doesn't need a comment. It needs to be proven. She clicked the remote. The screen behind her lit up, not with an architectural drawing, but with a detailed bank statement. This is the complete financial history of the Pulse of Boston project, she announced. The only funding we ever received from the Horizon Fund was $2,000. This money was transparently used to cover printing costs and competition entry fees. Every invoice, every receipt is right here. She projected each receipt, cleared down to the last cent. My project's total estimated budget is $50 million. That $2,000 grant represents 0.004% of the total. To say my project is a front for money laundering is like saying an elephant is hiding behind a shrub. It's ridiculous. She looked directly at the crowd, her eyes blazing. I do not know Stephen Cole. I am just a young architect who sent grant applications to dozens of foundations and was lucky enough to have one approve it. Their crimes are their own, not mine. Do not let one man's sins tarnish another's clean dream. Her transparency and ferocity silenced the room, but the silence was broken by a skeptical voice. Your words are compelling, but how can we believe that you, an unknown architect, could manage such a large project on your own? It was a loaded question, one that dredged up all the rumors about her powerful backer. Maya tensed, knowing she couldn't answer that question by herself. Just then, a door at the back of the room opened. All heads turned. Carter Johnson, dressed in an impeccable suit, walked in. He didn't head for the stage, but walked directly to the press row, taking a microphone from a stunned reporter. I'll answer that question. Carter's voice boomed with authority and purpose. The room held its breath. It's true that Miss Reyes is not alone, he said, looking straight at the reporter who had asked the question. Because she has me. A collective gasp went through the crowd. Carter held up a hand for silence. I have followed this project from the very beginning. At first, I was her competitor. I believed that profit was paramount, but she proved me wrong. She showed me that a city's value isn't measured in skyscrapers, but in its heart and soul. He turned, looking at the astonished Maya on the stage. There was no calculation in his eyes, only sincerity. The Johnson Group is officially announcing that we will be the primary investor for the Pulse of Boston project. We are not doing this because of any personal relationship. We are doing this because it is an outstanding project and a worthy investment in the future of Boston. Anyone who doubts the integrity of this project is doubting my judgment. The announcement was a bombshell. It not only obliterated all the rumors, but also served as a powerful validation of the project's worth. Carter hadn't just publicly supported her. He had gambled his own reputation, and that of the Johnson dynasty, on her. The next day, the judging panel made their final decision. With Maya's finances proven transparent, and with the unshakable endorsement from Carter, the Pulse of Boston project was officially declared the winner. They had won. But it came at a high price. Maya knew that from now on, her success would be inextricably linked to Carter Johnson's name, whether she liked it or not. As for Carter, when he walked out of that press conference, he received a single text from his father: "You are no longer my heir." They had won the right to build their project, but both had been forced to sacrifice their most important relationships to get there. The groundbreaking ceremony for the Pulse of Boston took place on a sun-drenched morning. The smell of fresh paint and the sound of construction machinery replaced the quiet decay of the old brick-lined quarter. Maya stood at the podium, no longer the trembling young woman from the first presentation, but a confident woman, an icon. She didn't talk about blueprints or structures. She talked about hope. "Today, we are not just building walls," she said, her voice carrying across the square where residents had gathered. "We are rebuilding trust. Trust that the past and the future can coexist. Trust that the community's voice will always be heard." She became the face of a new generation of American architects. Young, bold thinkers who believed that architecture was meant to serve people, not just profits. Her name appeared in prestigious magazines, not because of rumors, but because of her vision and perseverance. Universities invited her to give lectures. She was no longer fighting alone. She had started a movement. In a corner of the ceremony, Carter stood quietly, a faint smile on his lips. He was no longer the heir to the Johnson Empire. His father had kept his word, severing all ties and disinheriting him. But Carter had found something more valuable. He started his own investment firm, smaller and more agile, focused on projects with social value. He had learned a priceless lesson from Maya. The most sustainable profit comes from investing in people. He was still a sharp businessman, but now every number on his spreadsheets had a story, a human meaning behind it. After the ceremony, Maya found him standing by the river. "Thank you, Carter," she said softly, "for everything." "I should be the one thanking you, Maya," he replied, turning to her. His gaze was no longer cold and calculating, but warm and sincere. "You taught me how to see a city with my heart." They stood together in silence for a long moment. There were no passionate declarations of love, no fiery embraces. Their relationship, forged in crisis, was built on a foundation of mutual respect and a shared purpose. It was deeper and more resilient than a typical romance. Their story didn't end with a perfect wedding, but with the beginning of a meaningful partnership. They were often seen walking together through the revitalized alleys of the brick-lined quarter, an architect with an ideal and a businessman with a vision. They would argue passionately over what materials to use for the new market or how to build a safe playground that still honored the old architecture. They were two seemingly opposite pieces that, when joined together, created a complete picture. Together, they weren't just rebuilding a neighborhood, they were reshaping the soul of Boston, a city that reached for the sky while always holding dear the values and the vibrant pulse of its own heart.